This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, baby. It's hour number 2. We are ready to rock and roll. And with my friend Kevin Brockway, of course, from the Gainesville Sun. Follow him on Twitter at Kevin Brockway G1. Kevin, how you doing, my man? You doing good?
I'm doing good. It looks like you got a lot of gear behind you there, getting ready for the game.
Which is the section that's right behind us. So, yeah, man, we got a little messy craziness also down here in South Florida. Really not InterMiami fans. You're really like messy fans. It's kind of twisted. It's weird, man. It really is. It's kind of weird. But do we have 2 football teams trying to bounce back and become respectable again? And so, first of all, what do you think about this matchup, man? Because it's two fan bases that are dying to see their programs bounce back and become respectable again.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, 2 coaches, too, entering the third year, and Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal, that are really in desperate need of a win. Sellout crowd at the Swamp, which is going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm going to be fascinated, to watch Cam Ward in this game and to see how he reacts to the atmosphere. Now, he played in front of 70,000 last year in Washington in that rivalry game. This is going to be 90,000. I know that you have the radios inside the helmets now for the first year in college football. That may help him a little bit. But, we saw last year Joe Milton get a little rattled by this crowd. We've seen in the past. I mean, going back to 2018, Joe Burrow. There have been some good quarterbacks that have come in here that have had some issues. And one thing, I think we both know from following the Canes for the last 20 years is they are a turnover-prone team. I mean, they do have those games where they give the ball away. And I think in order for Florida to win this game, they're going to need to do that. They're going to need to force some takeaways, which is something they have not been good at. We're not particularly last year. They only forced 7 the whole season, which was last in the SEC. So I think that's the big thing. I think if Miami plays mistake-free football, they've got the edge on the line of scrimmage, but you do have a first-year quarterback, a first-year running back, playing their first game of the season.
Yeah, and Ward will, from what we see from his history, he'll take some chances. So that will give Florida opportunities. But on the flip side, okay, here's the screwed up part. Florida secondary wasn't very good last year. It gave up a lot of plays. I think they were ranked like 112th, that secondary. So they weren't good. But the problem is Miami's receivers and tight ends, they really haven't developed anything special like they used to do all the time. So this is an area you would think that maybe Miami could take advantage of, but you're not sure if they can because of the receivers. So you tell me, how much more improved is that Florida secondary from last year?
Yeah, well, they brought in a new coach, first of all, Will Harris, to replace Corey Raymond to address some of the issues in the secondary. I do think, Jason Marshall, a guy coming back that you guys don't know down at Miami Palmetto, someone with a lot of ability. Last year he had 10 pass breakups, but no picks. And I do remember him, dropping a potential pick 6 last year in a Kentucky game. So I think they want to see, more interceptions from him. Will Harris is, mentioning the ball hawking ability of the defense. He wants to see that. He's emphasized that in terms of the takeaways, as I mentioned earlier. Jordan Castell, a sophomore safety, I think took some lumps as a true freshman last year. Maybe he had 60 tackles, but, he also missed some, obviously, because of the physicality. He's a year older, a year stronger. I think they think he's going to be very solid in the back end. And then Asa Turner, a transfer they brought in from, Washington, who played under Will Harris there. Another guy who they're thinking as a strong safety will bring some physicality to that position as well. So Devin Moore is the other corner who has to prove that he can stay healthy. But last year he had a big interception in the Tennessee upset. 6'3", a bigger corner, a rangier corner, a guy that can handle bigger receivers. So I think they feel like they have some guys. Sharif Denson, Under Armour All-American, is going to be kind of that star up back position because they play a 4-2-5. Aaron Gates, too, another guy, Bryce Thornton. So they played a lot of young guys last year. I mean, at one point they were playing starting a true freshman at strong safety and a true freshman at free safety. So I think this year they feel like, they have a little more depth, a little more experience. DJ Douglas, a transfer from Tulane, Jaquezi Bridges, a transfer from Oregon, are two more guys that are kind of defensive back, safety types that can help there as well.
Okay, now on the flip side, see, okay, you might be able to take advantage of that Florida secondary. You might be able to challenge it, but I don't know if you have the players to actually challenge it. Okay, now on the other side, here's where I'm kind of confused. The Miami secondary hasn't been very good, but Eugene Wilson and what is it, Bader, the Elijah Bader kid?
Elijah Badger, yes.
Badger, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. And
yeah, they are. Badger's had some issues, I think, because he came in late, and I don't know how up to speed he is yet, but he's got a ton of ability. But another guy is Shamir Dike, I think, is a guy that you're going to want to watch because of the fact that he's got some chemistry with Graham Mertz. They played together at Wisconsin. He got here earlier. He's a guy that runs a 10-800. I think he's the guy earlier in the year that you might see Graham Mertz target a little more with the familiarity. Based on that. Another guy who's had a really good camp is Aiden Mizell, sophomore from the Orlando area, who, last year as a true freshman didn't really play well. He's got very good straight line speed, kind of a track background, but this year really worked on his hands, really worked on his route running, and I think is someone that's going to be a factor at receiver as well for Florida going forward.
So it's kind of screwed up, right? Like the challenges of both sides. Now let's get to the trenches. Okay. That's where I think Miami really, I don't know if I could trust their secondary. I don't know if I could trust their receivers. I don't know if I can trust their tight end. I mean, I like Restrepo, but if Restrepo's your best receiver, you got problems, dude. I mean,
more of a possession guy, right?
Yeah, he's a number 3 or number 4 on a real UM receiving core from back in the day. He's like like a 4, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but here's what I do trust from the Canes. I really like the offensive line. I like their running game. So Florida's run defense going into this game, because Mario also has to have some questions of how much can I trust my passing game? I know I can trust my running game. Let me make sure I can run with these hogs and these running backs. So I feel confident there. Tell me about the challenge for Florida stopping Miami's run.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge impact in the game, for sure. And I think that, it starts with Shamar James, who came back for his junior year. This is his third year as a starter. He's coming off the kneecap surgery. And if you noticed last year, Big O, he played in the Georgia game, but he was hobbled in that game. That's when he first kind of re-aggravated and re-injured it. I don't think it was any, coincidence that the Florida defense went south when he was out for the last 4 games of the season. I mean, he is kind of the heart and soul of the front seven in terms of his ability to tackle. So when you have him back, and then I think the second linebacker you added, Grayson Pop Howard, a transfer from South Carolina, another guy who had a very good spring. I've heard he's carried it over in the fall camp. 6'2", 235 pounds. I think he'll be the starter next to Shamar. Then you also have Derek Wingo from, St. Thomas Aquinas, who, people down there are probably familiar with. Also another veteran guy who's going to be in the mix at linebacker. They moved R.J. Moten there. And then you got the 2 young guys, the true freshman, Miles Graham, Ernest Graham's younger brother, and Aaron Childs, who I think will be there. And, defensive line, Cam Jackson is back. Caleb Banks is back. 2 starters are back there. You've got Joey Slackman, who they added from Penn, former Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year, who I think will factor in the mix there. So I think they've got some run pluggers there. I think it's just going to be a question of, whether they can execute and tackle. But I think that's a huge, the other 2, as you talk about, is pass protection too. How is this offensive line going to hold it?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's where on the flip side of that, what do you think about Miami's defense up against their offensive line? Well,
I think the most important player for Florida in this game is going to be Austin Barb at left tackle, because I was at that Miami Clemson game last year, and I saw firsthand how Ruben Bain wrecked that game. So you got to protect Graham Mertz. I mean, Mertz was sacked 33 times last year. He's not the most mobile guy. Certainly that, overall they gave up 39 sacks last year because FSU sacked him 6 times when Max Brown was a quarterback. So pass protection is going to be a huge key. I think it starts with Barber, a guy who 2 years ago was a freshman All-American as a redshirt freshman, but then last year had some shoulder issues and only played 8 games. So he's a guy that's going to have to really, step up to that challenge. And you might see a tight end like a Hayden Hansen, who's 6'7", 260, slide in on a little bit of max protection there if Bain gives Barber problems early. Don't be surprised to see that as well. And then, obviously you've got, Najee Harris at left guard, Jake Slaughter at center is an experienced guy. And then the right side of the offensive line, they moved Damian George inside because it didn't work out for him at right tackle. He's a right guard now. And then I think right tackle is the big question mark right now. It's down to 2 people, Cam Waits, who's a returner, and Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, a transfer from San Diego State, who has a lot of experience, has 30 career starts, albeit at the Mountain West level. But that offensive line is going to have to hold up. I mean, that's going to be a huge factor in that game because you know that Miami's got a ton of guys in their front seven that are going to bring the heat in that game.
No doubt. They gave up 39 sacks. Canes had 35. And I think they should be a little better this year on the D line. So that matchup there, it's going to be interesting to see if Miami can pressure him because Mertz doesn't make a lot of mistakes. That's the one thing. Like I know he's not the athlete that Ward is, but at least he's super efficient, dude.
Yes. I mean, led the SEC in completion percentage, 72.9%. Very good on the short and intermediate throws, but last year. Only 14 pass plays at 30 or more yards. So they don't take a lot of deep shots. And, obviously up here, fans.
No fun and gun anymore? What
that's a bit of frustration because, the fans up here, they want to see more deep shots. But honestly, in this Miami game, if they want to win the game, I think they're going to have to go quick game. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of 3-step drops and Mertz get the ball out of his hands quickly and shorter throws and hope for yards after the catch. Because I think if you're going to, put Mertz out there for deep drops the whole game and have him throw deep the whole game, it's not going to take advantage of what he does well, which is short, intermediate throws, hitting guys in stride. That's his bread and butter.
All right. Both coaches need this badly, dude, because, I can tell you, at least on this side, while I'm a Mario fan, I have to call it like I see it. He's got to win this. Like he must win. It's not like it ruins your season if you lose, but it takes the wind out of your sails, and you kind of start questioning whether he's the guy on game day because everything else about Mario you like. You love his recruiting. He's a terrific custodian. He's of the program. He's obviously a great with kids and all that kind of stuff. But on game day, he hasn't gotten the results. And that's the one thing that he's being, that's the main critique of his. If he loses this game, the fan base is going to get really down, unfortunately. And I'm sure that in Florida, if Billy Napier loses this game, especially to the Canes, they're going to be depressed. So there's a lot riding on this game, even though it's not the end-all be-all because it's only game 1. But what do you think about this game?
And I think, you talk about it's like a carbon copy when you talk about that. It's the same thing with Billy Napier. It's like, they like him as a custodian of the program here. They think he's recruiting well, but the game day results haven't shown. So I think it's critical for both coaches in that regard to, with the confidence within the fan base and so forth. And some people think that Billy Napier is probably on a hotter seat than Mario Cristobal. Yeah. And he's got the number 1 schedule in the country that he's facing. Probably a lot more difficult than Miami's schedule. All due respect.
Oh God, yes. Have you seen Miami's schedule,
yeah.
Dude? I mean, please.
Playing in the SEC, that's just the way it is. Certainly, from a momentum standpoint, if Billy Napier were to get this win, it would be huge. I think more of the mindset of he's got to get out of September at least 3-1. Because you have Texas A&M coming in here as well, but you have 3 of your first 4 at home in the month. So he could maybe get away with a loss to Miami if they're competitive and if it's a close game. But he better not lose to both Miami and Texas A&M. I mean, he's got to take care of things in the SEC, and you've got Texas A&M and Mississippi State in September, 2 teams with first-year coaches. So it would be a tremendously bad look if Billy Napier lost to a couple of first-year SEC coaches to go along with losing to Miami. So, but this would set the groundwork. This would create a lot of momentum. Of course, 2 years ago, they beat Utah at home, and everyone thought, oh, this was great for Billy Napier's debut. And then they laid an egg the following week against Kentucky. So I think it's just the totality of it. You want it to build week to week as well, and that's important. And Florida's won 35 in a row in home openers. And you have to go back to 1989, and Big O, I'm sure you and I were probably wearing stonewashed jeans and parachute pants back then. It was a long time ago for both of us. So it's been a while since Florida's lost a home opener. So I think there will be some grumbling if they lost here in the Swamp.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that long that they've had a winning streak in the Swamp. That's impressive. I mean, that place is impressive. It's not an easy place to play. So what's the prediction in the Gainesville Sun?
Well, I went 20-24 Florida. I think they're going to force a few takeaways in this game. I think that's how they're going to win. I think that's how they're going to have to win. They're going to have to win the turnover margin. I think they will. And I think that's how they're going to get it done is through that, because I do think line of scrimmage.
You're thinking they're going to force Cam into a mistake or two, don't
you? Yes, I think the crowd is going to play a factor in that. That's how I see the game going. I see them stealing a few possessions. I do think with the turnovers, them only having 7 last year, I do think there is some luck and circumstances that goes into it, because the year before I think they forced about 15 or 20. So maybe they're due. Maybe they're due for a few of those mistakes, and this might be the game where you get them. But some of that has to be forced by the defense as well. You got to be able to generate that too, and you generate it through a pass rush. You generate it through really good coverage in the secondary, and I do think that the secondary will be improved this year under Will Harris.
There you go. Should be a lot of fun, man. We can't wait. I just hope it doesn't end the way you say it's going to end, because that'll be a pain.
We'll say if Miami plays mistake-free football, I think they've got the edge.
Oh, for sure.
But we've followed the Canes long enough, you and I both, to know that that's always been an issue. You go back to the Georgia Tech game last year. You go back to a bunch of games where they've just given possessions away, and that's what kills you.
Middle Tennessee. All right. Anyway, Kevin Brockway, baby. Gainesville Sun, Kevin Brockway G1 on Twitter. Kevin, enjoy the game, my friend. We will catch up down the line. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Big O.
You got it, baby. Be good. There you go. The great Kevin Brockway.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.